Hi guys, it's Michelle, Deception Bites, and it is July 20th. Not quite sure how it got to be July 20th because it seems like just yesterday or the day before we were celebrating the 4th of July. But indeed, it is July 20th, and I'm bringing you Q News. Now, I wish I could be bringing you actual Q posts, but I can't because Q has not posted since July 4th. Not sure exactly what's going on, but this has happened before. There's been times of darkness before, so it's not anything that we need to worry about. I'm sure that there is a very good reason, but remember, keep in mind that, remembering and keeping in mind are the same thing. So you don't have to do both. You can either remember or you can keep in mind. But Q has told us that things are going to be revealed in July. Well, there are a lot of things being revealed in July, and I think that there is a lot more to come. So I do have I always use the word cornucopia, but I've got a deluge, a flood of information, Q related, and it's not in any particular order, but I am going to bring it to you because I do think that you guys will be interested in this because it is related. So first I'm going to bring you this little clip from Twitter, and I follow this person, Educating Liberals, because I really like what they have to say, and says, let's go over Putin's evil plan to destroy America. Get Trump elected. Secure the borders. Rebuild the military. Create booming economy. Create U.S. energy independence. Fix and secure national infrastructure. Yeah, makes total sense. And, I love it when people do that, when they just, sarcastically throw these things out which destroy the other's argument. But a lot of times the other side is not intelligent enough to realize what is being said. And that is so sad. But sometimes when we are so set in our ways and we are not open to hearing the truth, we are only open to hearing the truth as we see it, then that's what happens. So it is important, you don't keep your mind so open that your brains fall out. But, the way I look at it is I research things, and when I come to the truth that I believe in, I hold to that unless somebody can prove to me that the truth that I believe is not the truth. But many are not open-minded enough to do that. Now, and again, I'm not talking about being so open-minded that your brains fall out, but you know what I'm saying. Anyway, let's go on. All right. Now, Q has told us to pay attention to those people that we see leaving, CEOs, heads of companies, different people in government, because a lot of people, they were given some sort of deal that if they didn't seek re-election, they could, go without prosecution. I believe it was something to that nature. Now, these are probably people that have not committed the gravity of crimes that some of the high-profile ones have committed, but we don't know. Anyway, here is something along those lines. Report: 3 senior FBI cybersecurity officials are retiring. Well, several top cybersecurity officials are leaving the Federal Bureau of Investigation, even as cyber attacks have become a serious concern for election integrity, the Wall Street Journal reports. Scott Smith, the assistant director who runs the cyber division, Carl Gaddis, executive assistant director of the National Security Branch, and David Resch, executive assistant director of the Criminal Cyber Response and Services Branch, are all reportedly leaving in the coming weeks for retirement or for the public sector. A number of other deputies, namely a senior cyber agent who oversaw a bureau task force addressing Russian attempts to meddle in U.S. elections, have already left the FBI in favor of private sector work. One official told the newspaper that more departures can be expected, and experts said it was abnormal to see so many senior officials leave at the same time. But of course, we know that it's not abnormal in terms of what is happening. It's abnormal, these people that say, oh, there's nothing happening. Okay, well, if there was nothing happening, yes, that would be totally abnormal. Totally abnormal. But we know, because we have been told, bits and pieces of what's been happening, behind the scenes. So all these people that are not seeking re-election or leaving their posts, it's not so abnormal to us when viewed through those glasses, those lenses. We understand what's happening, and it's to be expected if we believe in Q, right? Because if we believe that Q is somebody high level within the government that is giving us information, then we would expect the things that he says to happen. And if we expect these things to happen, then we expect to see more and more of this. And indeed we are. And it seems to me, now I don't have an article to back this up, but in my reading adventures throughout today or yesterday, in looking at different things in the news, I remember coming across that the head of Goldman Sachs has retired as well, and I'm not sure if it was a retirement or just leaving. I cannot remember now, but it's one or the other. So that's another one that we can add to our list. So let's go back. Now, I did grab. Oh my gosh, it's only 3:41 and I'm yawning. That should not be legal. I did grab some tweets from President Trump's Twitter account because I thought that they're interesting and we need to see them. I think it's also interesting, and I've noted this before, that there's a new legislature, something, I don't know if it's a bill or whatever, but all of these tweets now are part of the official record of Donald Trump's presidency. So everything he tweets will be archived for future generations, for posterity. And I do believe that that is why he is such a prolific tweeter, because it gets his point across. So in the future, when you have the news saying one thing, you're going to have you're going to have an official record of all of his tweets, all of his, emails, all that stuff. Everything is kept. So I think that is truly why he's such a prolific tweeter. And it keeps him in touch with his base, because a lot of his base are younger or middle age, or, he's got fans of every age, but it just seems that most of his fans are computer literate, as are most people now, except for the very elderly. But anyway, Donald Trump. The summit with Russia was a great success, except the real enemy of the people, the fake news media. I look forward to our second meeting so that we can start implementing some of the many things discussed, including stopping terrorism, security for Israel, nuclear. So, he's saying, well, the summit was a fantastic success, except, unless you listen to the fake news. If you listen to the fake news, you're going to hear something completely different. And I know because, I have family around in this area that listen to the news, and they're like, oh, isn't this terrible? What do you think of this? And like, I'll come out with something completely different. And then they look at me with that almost pathetic look in their face, like, oh, you poor dear, you need some help. So I just let it roll off my back. But anyway, I'm sure that you guys run into the same things, because I know that not all of you, most people have family that are both Republican, Democrat, whatever, Libertarian, what have you. We've all got different people, and we all think differently in families. Just because a family is related doesn't mean everybody thinks the same. So I know you guys are probably running into the very same thing, and it's disconcerting, but it's par for the course. Now, here's another tweet. The fake news media wants so badly to see a major confrontation with Russia, even a confrontation that could lead to war. They are pushing so recklessly hard and hate the fact that I'll probably have a good relationship with Putin. We are doing much better than any other country. Now, I do believe that. I do believe that is a fact. The economy is just rocking, and so many good things are happening in the States. Yes, there's bad things as well, and there will be until some of this stuff gets straightened out. But I'm telling you, times are, well, let's just put it this way. Could you imagine if you had woke up this morning and Hillary Clinton was president? How would your day be different? What would the news be like? What would be happening? It's an interesting thought. It's an interesting exercise to just think about that. If I woke up this morning and I turned on the news and Hillary Clinton was president, how would my day be different? And what would be different in the world? I posit that a whole lot would be different. So let's go on here. The fake news media is going crazy. They make up stories without any backup sources or proof. Many of the stories written about me and the good people surrounding me are total fiction. Problem is, when you complain, you just give them more publicity. But I'll complain anyway. Now, I happen to like the way President Trump, not Trump, he's not President Trump. He's President Trump. I like the way he talks, and he's very down to earth. And it's true. They're just going out and making up stories, and, it doesn't matter if they have sources or proof, they just make them up. And yet, we can't do that. You or I couldn't do that. If I start just making stuff up on my Twitter channel here and just making whatever up that I want to, you can bet that I would be kicked off probably sooner than later. And it's the same thing with the alternative news. They wouldn't be around long if they were just making stuff up, making up sources. So, but for some reason, probably because of their CIA ties, they seem to get away with it quite nicely. They get their talking points around 4 a.m. in the morning, and you'll notice, if you look, you go and look at the major news stories that day. Now, you'll know the major news stories because they'll be the ones that are in all the papers. And they'll have a few words would be changed here and there, but basically the same story written in the same way, just maybe with a little bit, whoever the writer is might add their own little flair, but it's the same story. And you'll find that they're all written between 4 and 5 in the morning. And they're all so similar that you have to ask yourself, why are all these journalists writing the same story at the same time of the morning? Obviously, they're getting it from the same source, right? Doesn't that lend credence to the fact that there is a 4 a.m. drop occurring from Langley? Of course. And I have been observing this ever since I found out about that 4 a.m. drop. And I'll look and I'll think, okay, well, here's 2, 3, 4, online sources that have the exact story, maybe worded slightly different, but it's the exact story with the exact same bent, with the exact same bias. So I look at the times. Yep, they were all written within minutes of each other, half an hour of each other, all of them. And to me, that is not coincidental. It can't be. It can't be. And, of course, they think we're stupid. And to tell you the truth, we are. Now, I'm including myself in that, so don't get really offended. We are stupid. If Q had not told us that there was a 4 a.m. drop, none of us would have looked for it, right? We wouldn't have. We wouldn't have known to look for it. So, yeah, sometimes we need somebody like Q to drop us those crumbs to help us figure it out for ourselves. Because it's one thing to just poo-poo Q. Poo-poo Q. I'm sorry. But, when people start doing that to me, it's like, okay, but there's proof of this and this and this and this and this. Have you looked into that? Well, no, because the whole thing is ridiculous. I'm not going to waste my time looking into it. Okay, well, then you really don't want to know the truth then. If you're not going to take the time to look into it, don't try and have an argument with me about it, because I have looked into it. So I don't mind anybody, countering my view or saying, look, you're wrong about this. And a lot of times they're right. I was wrong, and I appreciate it. I appreciate them correcting me, but don't come up to me and say, well, Q's just retarded, and anybody that believes in that's just retarded because, it's just a LARP. Well, yeah, but what about this proof and this proof and this proof? Well, I never looked into that. I don't have time for that. Well, then you don't have time to talk about it, because you're just, anyway, talking to hear yourself talk, which we all do at times, and which I might be doing right now. I don't know. Okay. Next tweet. The Democrats have a death wish. I don't know what is wrong with me. What is wrong with me today? The Democrats have a death wish in more ways than one. They actually want to abolish ICE. This should cost them heavily in the midterms. Yesterday, the Republicans overwhelmingly passed a bill supporting ICE. And I remember in the last video, I went through actually how many arrests and so forth had happened through ICE agents, and it's astronomical. So they are doing a lot of good, no matter what is being said in the media. They are doing a lot of good, and they are very, very needed. The last thing we want to do, abolishing ICE and, rejecting the wall and having open borders is the same thing as you living in. Now, right now, I'm kind of in a country setting, but I've lived most of my life, and I would say 90% of my life in a city, a large city, different cities, but they were all large cities. Now, in none of those cities did I ever feel safe enough to leave my car doors unlocked or my house unlocked. And yet that is what the proponents of, open borders and all these people that are, objecting to immigration and sending people back, where they came and so forth. That's what all these people are saying. Well, we should have open borders. We should allow anybody that wants to come in to come in. Well, great. Take the door off your house, and then I'll listen to you. You take the door off your house and you live like that for, a good year. Then come talk to me. Then come talk to us about your experiences with an open border, so to speak. And if you're still alive, that is. If you're still alive after a year, then I'll sit down and absolutely, we'll all have a conversation. We can have a conversation, you could call in so that everybody can hear it. But not until you take the door off your house. Now, I realize in cold climates, you might have to put something there to keep the cold out, but they should still have access. You could close the door, but keep it unlocked. Seriously. If you want open borders, just leave your car unlocked, leave your garage unlocked. Hey, you can even leave the keys in your car, because that's what we're doing. They can just walk right over. They've got the keys. They can get, they seem to be able to get anything they want. They seem to even be able to vote. And you know what? When I was there, and hope to be soon, please, Lord, I could not get it through to people that I could not vote. I said, I am a legal resident with a legal green card. I've gone through everything legally. I was told I cannot vote. Oh, but, they don't check that. So if you want to sign up. So that's what they're telling people. I know that because it happened to me. And I kept saying, well, legally, I'm not supposed to vote. I'm not supposed to vote. Well, you can vote. Well, I didn't. I didn't because of an integrity issue. Until I became a full citizen, and that takes time after you have your green card. Nothing is instantaneous, but I didn't feel like I could vote because they told me that I couldn't, and I didn't want to break the law. But doesn't seem to matter because all the illegals are voting and nobody cares. Nobody checks. Nobody checks. I could have walked in anywhere and voted and nobody would have known. I don't have anything on my social security number that says that I wasn't born there. Nobody knows. You can look at my social security number. It doesn't say that I'm a legal green card holder, that I'm a legal resident and not a citizen. So anyway, I'm going to go on from that because I think I'm wearing you guys out. So here's another tweet from Trump. 3 million jobs created since our great election victory, far greater than ever anticipated and only getting better as new and greatly approved trade deals start coming to fruition. This is awesome, and we know this is to be true. Things have only gotten better under Trump, and I know everyone can say what they want, but I don't see anything that is worse under Trump. I know people say, oh, there's more racism, there's more this, there's more that. I don't see that. Maybe I'm blind. I'm not a person of color, so maybe I don't see that. But I cannot see any evidence that Trump is a racist. Now, please, and you know what? I would like to hear from some of you that are listening that are African American that can address this, because I don't feel like I am qualified to address this. I have a great deal of Native American, well, not Native American, Native Canadian, actually, Indian, which, I mean, we're all part of North America, but you would not know that to look at me. So I don't think that I've ever been, the focus of any sort of discrimination against me, maybe as an outsider moving into certain places, but I don't really call that racism at all. And so I don't know. So if there are some of you out there that are not necessarily African American, but Hispanic or whatever, Chinese, whatever, and you think it's worse under Trump, please put a comment below, because I truly want to know the experience that others are having. I really do. Now, I can't address that. I'm white. I can say, well, there's no racism, but of course I would say that because I don't experience it. So I don't know. I only see things getting better under Trump, not worse. But if you have a different opinion, I would be, I welcome it. I just ask that you be, just don't be rude, because we're having a conversation here. And you can't have a conversation with a string of swear words and whatever. Those will get erased. But if you're really wanting to have a conversation, I want to know. I really honestly want to know. All right. Now, here's the next one. I had a great meeting with NATO. They have paid $33 billion more and will pay hundreds of billions of dollars more in the future, only because of me. Now, we can never say that Donald Trump is humble. I mean, he's truthful. He's truthful. That is the truth because of him. But, I wouldn't say that he's overly humble, but that's him. That's him. And you know what? He has to toot his own horn because nobody else will. It's sad, but true. NATO was weak, but now it is strong again. Bad for Russia. The media only says I was rude to leaders, never mentions the money. And that is true. That is true. That is what the narrative is how rude Trump was to the leaders and blah, blah. And I don't believe any of it. I don't believe any of it. I wish for a year I could follow Donald Trump around to different meetings and see how the press is reporting it compared to what actually happened. It would just be interesting. I'm not saying, I'm just saying as a psychology experiment, it would be interesting to me because I don't think that the right things are ever being reported. I think that the things that, are being reported that are against it are always from alternate news sources and sometimes Fox. So Anyway, now, Donald Trump. Our relationship with Russia has never been worse, thanks to many years of U.S. foolishness and stupidity, and now the rigged witch hunt. Now, that was July 15th. That's 5 days ago. And I do think that Trump has made very positive steps in repairing our relationship with Russia. I do not know why there are people that seem so threatened with Trump trying to have diplomatic talks with Russia. I just don't see how that can be a negative thing, right? Now, I'm not under any illusions. I don't think that they're best buddies. I don't think that they're going to go skipping hand in hand through the tulips or go off and play tennis together, or I just don't. But I think that they're cautiously optimistic, and I think that they're cautious of one another, but they're talking. They're talking, and I believe that they probably have a much better relationship than is ever being portrayed. You know, I mean, Trump is saying, yeah, we have a good relationship now, or whatever. But I think that it's probably better. I do think that they are working together at some capacity. Now, again, this is just my opinion, and opinions are like armpits. We all have a couple of them, and they stink. But for what it's worth, that's what I think. Okay, President Obama thought that crooked Hillary was going to win the election. So when he was informed by the FBI about Russian meddling, he said it couldn't happen, was no big deal, and did nothing about it. When I won, it became a big deal, and the rigged witch hunt headed by Strzok. Yeah, so, yeah, it was before then, before Trump was elected, there was nothing in there about Russian meddling. Even so, these so-called 12 Russians, it was under the Obama campaign. It was in 2016, had nothing to do with Trump, and yet, Obama didn't think it was such a big deal. It was only when Trump won that the witch hunt began. Right? Wonder why? You ever ask yourself why? Why wasn't Russia a big deal before then? Could have something to do with uranium. Could have something to do with $400 million. Hillary Clinton. I think that the money that has been taken out of this country by the Obama administration, by McCain's foundation, by Obama's foundation, should all come back to the people. Now, I know it's scattered to the wind, but whatever money can be recovered needs to be recovered. And I think that's why the Clintons were found traveling coach. You think the Clintons travel coach? Do you think that that's a regular thing for them? And yet they were clearly seen on an airplane traveling coach. I think it was Delta. Not that that matters, but, way back from the time that he was a governor, he had private pilots and so forth. So, I don't know. Why is he traveling coach now? Where'd your money go? Yeah. Went from Air Force One to Air Force None. Yeah. So there's something to that. Has their money been confiscated? Has Obama's money been confiscated? I don't know. But it needs to be, and it needs to be given back to the American people. Now, I'm not saying that we write a check to every single person, because really it came out of our tax dollars. So it should come back into the coffers, and it should go for fixing our infrastructure, in improving our schools, improving training for our police, improving pay for our police, including it should improve veterans, the veterans hospital, veterans care, the military. That's where it should go, on strengthening the infrastructure of this country. The infrastructure, in terms of bridges and all this, is falling. It's falling apart. It's old. It needs to be repaired. And I think that money whatever they can confiscate, needs to be used for that. That's my personal opinion, but it's not a bad one. It's not a bad idea, because we need it. Where's the money going to come from? It's going to come from tax dollars one way or another. Well, those are tax dollars that we gave in good faith to to those in authority over us governmentally. And look what was done with it. Look at the money that was sent to Haiti. You know, how many houses were built? I don't know. Was it 3? It's ridiculous. Plus a whole lot of kids missing. Wonder how much money those kids brought in. And it's sick. It's absolutely sickening. But I'm just saying, they look at people like a commodity. They are what's called hunters of men. Hunters of men. Not fishers of men, as Jesus' disciples were. They were fishing for men to save them. These are hunters of men. They hunt them down to oppress, to subjugate, and to kill them. Or to place them in slavery. It's one of those things. They want power over them. They want to subjugate them. They want to enslave them, make money from them, keep them in poverty, and ultimately to kill them. That's what they want. They're hunters of men. All right. Here's another one by Donald Trump. There hasn't been a missile or rocket fired in 9 months in North Korea. There have been no nuclear tests, there have been no nuclear tests, and we got back our hostages. Who knows how it will all turn out in the end? But why isn't the fake news talking about these wonderful facts? Because it's fake news. And you're right. I went to a little dinner party with some of relatives of mine in Toronto, and they were talking about, oh, isn't it awful, like Trump's just been fooled and he's just been made a fool out of by Kim Jong-un, and Kim Jong-un has no intentions of doing any of that. And so that is the narrative that is being put forth here in Canada. And from the American stations that I'm watching, it's the same narrative that is being put across in the States, but there's only one problem with that. It isn't true. It isn't true. So, yeah, very interesting times we're living in. Very interesting times. All right, here's the next one. The stories you heard about the 12 Russians yesterday. This was tweeted on July 14th. I know I've grabbed these from over several days. The stories you heard about the 12 Russians yesterday took place during the Obama administration, not the Trump administration, and that's what I had spoken about earlier. Why didn't they do something about it? Especially when it was reported that President Obama was informed by the FBI in September before the election. Well, that's a good question, isn't it? I wonder why nobody's answering it. I don't know. Actually, we all know. We all know. Just let me take a drink here. Okay, and in terms of the fake illegal alien narrative that we're hearing about the border and all the poor babies and blah blah blah. Look at this. 1 in 5 illegal aliens crossing with toddlers are criminals, a danger. About 1 in 5 illegal alien adults crossing the United States-Mexico border with toddlers under the age of 5 are either criminals, not the child's parent, or present some other danger to the child. A new report released by the White House finds that of the 102 border crossing toddlers who were mandated by the courts to be reunited with the illegal alien adults they arrived with, 21 of the adults were found to be unfit to be reunited with the toddlers they crossed with. That means that about 1 in 5 illegal alien adults arriving in the U.S. with toddlers are not eligible to have those children placed back in their care and custody after being separated at the border. The White House outlined the cases of the 21 illegal alien adults who are unfit to be reunited with the toddlers they arrived with. Those cases include 11 of the illegal aliens have criminal records, a warrant for murder in Guatemala, child cruelty and narcotics convictions, suspected transnational criminal organization involvement and human trafficking, outstanding criminal warrant in El Salvador, 2 DUI convictions, significant criminal history including assault conviction, outstanding warrant in Florida for DUI, DUIs, assault, stolen vehicle, robbery conviction, wanted by El Salvador, criminal charges including assault. 7 of the illegal aliens, not the parents of the toddler. Adult said he is uncle, not father. Negative DNA match. Adult indicated he is not the child's father. Adult said she is the grandmother, not mother. During DNA testing, adult disclosed she is not the child's mother. Negative DNA match, still under investigation. Adult disclosed that she is the grandmother, not the parent. Adult presented false birth certificate, still under investigation. 2 of the illegal aliens present a danger to the toddler. Before court order, adult was required to submit information and fingerprints of other adults in household where she will live with the child. Background checked on adult male in household shows an active warrant for aggravated criminal sexual assault of a 10-year-old female. Child made allegations of abuse against adult. 1 of the illegal aliens has a communicable disease. Parent is being treated for communicable disease in ICE custody. The White House says that if the Department of Health and Human Services had not properly vetted each of the illegal alien adults that arrived with toddlers at the border, the cases would have resulted in 7 of the 102 children being reunited with adults who are not their parents, 4 of which would have not even been related to the children. As Breitbart News previously reported, the separation of illegal alien adults from the border crossing children they arrive in the U.S. with had been occurring since before 2001. For months, the establishment media, Democrats, and the GOP establishment have falsely claimed that President Trump's zero tolerance policy at the border, where all border crossers are criminally prosecuted, has spurred for the first time ever a result in which border crossing families are separated. Of course, we know that that is absolute bunk. This was happening under Obama, the very same thing. Nobody said anything. All Trump was doing was following the law that was already in place. He did not enact any new laws there. This law was already in place and he was enacting it. He was saying, okay, we're going to start enforcing this law that's already there, that's been, being ignored for the most part. That's all. In 2014, Breitbart, Texas, broke the story of how child border crossers were being crammed into detention centers and facilities by the Obama administration, revealing a number of exclusive Breitbart News photos that went unmentioned by the establishment media. Likewise, Breitbart News has exposed how children border crossers were detained without their legal alien guardians under the Obama administration. The total number of border crossing children who were separated from the adults they arrived with at the border by the Obama administration is unknown, as the Department of Homeland Security did not track those records at the time. So this is a really serious problem, but there's a reason why they're separated. And that's what the Democrats, they don't want to get it through their head because they're using this for their own political purposes. But people don't seem to understand that there's a reason why they separate them. And it's not forever. But, first of all, some of these children aren't even related to the people that are bringing them across, and they're probably being brought across for purposes of human trafficking. Second of all, the adult that is bringing them over may not be, the best person that child should be with. They may have criminal records themselves. They may have, assaulted other children, whatever. This is all for not only the protection of Americans, and of course that has to be Americans first, their first place of focus should be on what is going to keep Americans safe. Second of all, they want to keep the people that are crossing safe, when really that should fall on the other countries where these people are coming from. They should be being sent back, all of them. But I don't know, there's a lot to consider here, but anyway, let's go on. And all these people that are saying, well, the children are being taken away from their parents. Well, there's one way to stop that. If parents will stop bringing their children across the border illegally, then it would all stop. There are legal ways to immigrate here. I know. I did it. So, anyway, let's go back. Now, I think that I, for some reason, put that news article in there twice, so we'll skip down to here. And again, this is from Educating Liberals. The responsibility of stopping the Russian interference belongs to Obama, who was president at the time and told Trump to stop whining because, quote, no serious person would even suggest you could rig America's elections. Did you forget about that? Interesting, isn't it? Yeah, that's what Obama said to Trump. Stop whining. No serious person would even suggest that you could rig Americans' elections. Interesting. Now, I thought this was interesting, and it was a piece of good news for me. And this is from Erica from Southern California. Wow, my best new friend in Hollywood, actress Sandra Bullock, to Hillary Clinton. If you don't like our president, you can leave and never come back. You're one jealous woman who has nothing to compare with Trump. I hope he'll arrest you soon. Good for you, Sandra Bullock. I knew I liked you. I loved that movie, Blind Side. If you've never seen it, please see it. It's just an awesome movie. I've heard it's not exactly true to life, but it's just such a feel-good movie, and I really enjoyed it. It's old, but if you haven't seen it, take a look at it. It's worth seeing. There's nothing bad in it. Well, in terms of, like bad language and, gratuitous sex and so forth. Okay, actress Sandra Bullock to Hillary Clinton. If you don't like our president, Sandra Bullock stated that she is not politically vocal, but rather that that doesn't mean she isn't stubborn with regards to America's administration. Now, I'm not reading the whole article. I just clipped this out because I don't think it's necessary. I think that the necessary point is that we have another person in Hollywood that is speaking out for the president, and that is a good thing. A very good thing. You go, Sandra Bullock. You go, girl. Now, this I found interesting too. I'm going to have to make it a tiny bit smaller for us to get it all on here. All right. Now, most of us know this. It's just that it's good to revisit stuff and keep ourselves refreshed with all this stuff. Okay. This is from Andrew Breitbart. Early on, did John Podesta imagine his baby at MMFA would be covering up for underage sex slave ops and hate crimes against blacks? I'm not sure what MMFA is, but it sounds familiar. If someone knows, could you put it in the comments below? But before I get 300 explanations. Just kind of take a look down, scroll down through and see if anybody has answered it yet. Because what happens is you all are so helpful that when I ask something like that, I get like 100 replies of what it is. And that's awesome. It just shows how helpful you all are. But it's a lot to read through when, people like to read through the comments and learn different things. And so they don't want to go through 100, comments about essentially the same thing. So if someone knows, please comment, and then others can check and see if it has been answered. Okay, so then over here, autopsy, he had an enlarged heart. Breitbart died of heart failure. We all know that he was murdered. How Program Guru, here's another one of his tweets by Andrew Breitbart before he was killed. How Program Guru John Podesta isn't household name as world-class underage sex slave op cover-upper defending unspeakable dregs escapes me. And, no, don't hold back, Breitbart. Tell us how you really feel. Now, how much longer until they kill me, he said. Heart attack? Or car accident? Or frame me for a crime? Read me while you can. So he knew they were going to kill him. And I have seen clips on YouTube, and if you Google them, I'm sure you can find them as well, where he is confronting Podesta. And so I remember thinking the very first time I saw that, uh-oh. And for sure, there are certain people you don't cross in Hollywood. And certainly the pedophiles are one of them, because they are one well-connected network, apparently. So they killed him. Andrew Breitbart died of heart failure as a result, coronary artery disease and an enlarged heart, coroner officials said. I don't believe that. I believe that he was killed, and I believe that he had a heart attack, but we all know that they have ways of making that happen. Then look here. What a coincidence. Breitbart's coroner is dead from arsenic poisoning. So they kill Breitbart. His coroner probably knew something. They killed him with arsenic poisoning. But I'm sure it's only a coincidence, right? Now, here's John the Stain. I dislike this man. And I hate to say that, because I try to find good in everyone, but some people it's very, very difficult. I do pray that justice is done here. He says, Bill Browder is a champion of anti-corruption in Russia. DHS must immediately review decision to revoke his visa. Now, of course, Bill Browder was the person, according to Putin, who helped Hillary Clinton get $400 million, which is just about $500 million, into her Clinton Foundation. Yes. And there's McStain standing up for him, because they all have to stick together. They're just kind of like sticky rice. They just kind of all hang together. All right. And here's something else from Educating Liberals. Obama called for the rich to close the wealth gap by saying, there's only so big a house you can have. He also just bought an $8.1 million mansion in Washington, D.C. The Democrats' slogan should be, do as I say, not as I do. By the way, that mansion will have a wall around it. Well, naturally, it would. Yeah. That's interesting. Obama calls for the rich to close the wealth gap. There's only so big a house you can have. Why doesn't he put his money where his mouth is and go off and live in a tiny house? Seriously. I really do think tiny houses are the way of the future, because I think more and more people are getting fed up with carrying a mortgage and say, you know what? I'd rather live in a tiny little house, mortgage free, and lead a simple life than be living in $1 million or $2 million or $3 million home. And in Toronto, I mean, really, I don't even think you can find a house that you would live in under $1 million. I'm not joking. And seriously, the housing is just exploded there. Even around this area, I went to see a little house. It was 1,000 square feet. In fact, I don't even think it was 1,000. It was probably between 8 and 1,000 square feet. And which, it's just me and 2 rescue cats, so it's not like I need, a ton of room. But I was looking at this because it had been renovated, and it had a little postage stamp yard, which is great, because I thought, okay, well, I won't have to be, cutting a big lawn and all that stuff. And it just had a lot of things that appealed to me, but it was very simple. I liked the kitchen. The kitchen had been renovated and so forth. Well, this tiny, teeny, 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 tiny house, and it was really tiny. I called because I wanted to find out how much it was. Now, granted, it was not in the best of neighborhoods, and it was squashed in between 2 other houses, so you didn't have a whole lot of privacy. It's not like you could spread out much. It was squashed between 2 other houses, which were not nice houses. Do you know how much that went in a little town? A little town. $300,000. $300,000 for essentially a dollhouse. Essentially not much bigger than a tiny house. Yeah, so I'm just saying that I think people are getting fed up. They're not willing to work 2 and 3 and 4 jobs to pay for their home. This is an economically depressed area, so I think that most people would have trouble coming up with that. And what's happening too is the prices are so huge in Toronto. I mean, really, you can't get an apartment that you'll live in for under $1,500, $2,000, and that's just something very, very basic. Then they're pushing down this way and buying up the houses because they're cheaper, because $300,000 to them is a steal. So I'm just saying that, if Obama really means this, he needs to be the one going out living in a tiny house. He and his man Michel. Yeah, buy 1,000 square foot house. Put a little house in the back for your office, whatever. He doesn't need an $8.1 million mansion. And so, yeah, there you go. Tiny homes, the way of the future. I really believe that. You think of, there's something, and I just want to mention that I know I'm very chatty today. I don't know what has happened to me. I'm like chatting everybody's hind legs off. But anyway, I was reading that China had come up with something, and it's like a form of a tiny house, but it can fit in between, in a city where you've got 2 buildings and you've got an alleyway. Well, it can fit into the alleyway, so you can make the alleyway into these little block houses for either the homeless or the very poor, because that Hong Kong and areas such as that, oh my gosh, you should see some of the places that people are living and look into that. It's unbelievable. So I do think that there are solutions for our homeless that we should be looking into as well. But anyway, I'm going to leave that for now. Now, I don't remember what this is, but let's take a boo at it. There, I gave you just a couple seconds of silence there so that your ears could rest from my jaws flapping. Okay. Will the Dems and fake news ever learn? This is classic. Now let's go back here and
we want very much to have a strong Russia, because a strong, competent, prosperous, stable Russia is, we think, in the interest of the world.
Oh, wait, what? What'd you say, Hillary?
I mean, we want very much to have a strong Russia because a strong, competent, prosperous, stable Russia is, we think, in the interest of the world.
Oh, do you now? Do you now? Well, that's not what you've been flapping your gums about all over the news lately. Has she? I guess it's different when she thinks she's going to be president. You know, then a strong Russia is important to her because she can, you know, sell more of our country off to them and gain more money for herself. But of course, she doesn't want Trump talking to Russia. Too many secrets to hide. All right, now let's go here. All right, this is from the Epoch Times, and I think it's interesting because it's an article about Q, the Q phenomenon. A single letter has begun appearing on billboards near highways across the United States and on T-shirts at Trump rallies, and it has become an internet sensation among many conservatives. Q represents a mysterious individual or group of individuals who began in October 2017 posting online updates on secret actions allegedly taken by the Trump administration to purge corruptions from the United States and the world. Most of the mainstream news outlets have written Q off as a conspiracy theory, but the constant barrage of anti-Trump articles and newscasts have damaged these outlets' credibility with Q constituency. The claims have done little to stop the momentum of the growing movement. The Q post began on the 4chan message board, known for its absence of censorship in ways both good and bad, but later moved to a similar board on 8chan for alleged security concerns. The posts also appear regularly under the QAnon hashtag on Twitter and are a topic of coverage for many conservative YouTubers. Even celebrities such as Roseanne Barr have commented on the Q posts. If the Q posts are real, they may indicate that the Trump administration has established an alternate channel to speak to supporters, bypassing news outlets and social media altogether for something more direct. The validity of the channel has not been confirmed or denied by the administration, and that is true. You have never heard the administration either confirm or deny, but we have had many secret Qs from Trump that would support the existence of Q. However, apparent confirmation of the connection of the Q post to Trump administration has been provided through the cross-posting of keywords with President Trump's Twitter account. U.S. intelligence agencies are known to use official Twitter accounts to send coded messages. For example, the New York Times reported on February 2nd that the National Security Agency had used its official Twitter account nearly a dozen times to send coded messages to a potential source in Russia. To gain a deeper insight into this phenomenon, I contacted the moderator of a private Q discussion group on Facebook. The individual is a former U.S. government security advisor, but asked to not be named out of concern he would be attacked by leftist groups. He said Q represents alleged updates on the promises made by Trump from the beginning of his campaign to drain the swamp by purging corruption, expose the fake news media, and stand up to globalist and special interest groups. The moderator pointed to a video from one of Trump's early rally, which he said fairly sums up the nature of the Q posts. In the video, Trump said, "Our movement is about replacing a failed and corrupt political establishment with a new government controlled by you, the American people. The Washington establishment and financial and media corporations that fund it exist for only one reason: to protect and enrich itself." Trump then went on to explain the relations between global special interest groups, major news outlets, large corporations, and political corruption. He said that his campaign represents a true existential threat to this corrupt system, and addressing Americans said, "We will take back this country for you, and we will make America great again." According to the moderator, the analysis and insight in the Q posts are among the most significant parts for those who follow them. He said many of the predictive posts are always well-timed, always on the ball, and so far, always correct. Many Q posts are written as somewhat coded messages, which can be interpreted in many ways and allude to the alleged actions of the Trump administration to meet these promises. The posts have their own code words, where BHO, for example, is used instead of Barack Hussein Obama, BC instead of Bill Clinton, and so on. The posts often point to incidents that have taken place and give context to those incidents, and also give leads on incidents that are unfolding or allegedly are still to come in the near future. The moderator noted that this method of providing information to the general public makes sense from the perspective of U.S. intelligence agencies, since by alluding to information using keywords and leads rather than through direct explanations, it likely wouldn't violate laws on leaking classified intelligence. It's open source intel, he said. It's done in a way that doesn't violate federal laws on classified material. Many of the Q posts are also based on open source information so that people following them can themselves do research and draw their own conclusions. Others that are predictive or based on alleged classified information take more of a leap of faith. Some information can be verified while other information is more contextual. A recent post, for example, pointed to the unusually large number of sealed indictments at the Justice Department. Normally, the number of sealed indictments each year is close to 1,000. Currently, the number of sealed indictments since October is over 40,000. If it is true that corruption has found its way into U.S. politics, intelligence agencies, legacy news outlets, and other groups, the moderator said, then in this context it would make sense that the Trump administration would open an alternate channel to communicate with Americans on how it is cleaning things out. There are many theories on who is behind Q. Among the more common beliefs is that Q stands for Q security clearance, the highest level of clearance within the Department of Energy. Others believe it refers to Q from the James Bond films, a figure who supports Bond as he fights a global corrupt shadow government or shadow group. The moderator, however, believes Q refers to quartermaster and that it could refer to any leader in the Trump administration. He said that Q is the quartermaster of America. He pointed to a series of quotes from America's founding fathers. These include a quote from Thomas Jefferson stating, "If we are to guard against ignorance and remain free, it is the responsibility of every American to be informed." Another from George Washington states, "Truth will ultimately prevail. Where there is pain taken to bring it to light. Truth will ultimately prevail where there is pain taken to bring it to light." Those quotes are exactly what Q is all about, the moderator said. We need to wake people up. He noted that it is a different turn on news channels these days. He noted that it's difficult to turn on news channels these days, such as CNN, for even 5 minutes without hearing something negative against Trump, and that in this context, maybe Trump and some people around him decided they wanted a backup channel from Twitter and Facebook, and Q is the backup. So, I think that's right on, and I think it's well written, and it's one of the only positive Q articles that I've seen. So, wanted to make sure that you guys were aware of that. Now, okay, let's take a look at this. Now, I've got lots of stuff today, and I am going to cut this one in a few minutes here, but I do want to make sure I bring it to you guys because I think it's all interesting stuff. It's interesting, it's important, and it's critical that we all stay informed. Intel operative who altered Obama's passport records turned FBI informant on boss John Brennan, then turned up murdered in D.C. I don't think that is a surprise to any of us. A key witness in a federal probe into Barack Obama's passport information stolen and altered from the State Department was gunned down and killed in front of a district church in D.C. Lieutenant Quarles Harris Jr., 24, who has been cooperating with federal investigators, was found last night slumped dead inside a car. He was reportedly waiting to meet with FBI agents about his boss, John Brennan. Back in March 2008, the State Department launched an investigation on improper computer access to the passport records of Barack Hussein Obama, and days later those of Hillary Clinton and John McCain. The investigation centered on one employee, a contract worker for a company that was headed by Brennan, a key Obama campaign advisor who became assistant to the president and deputy national security advisor for Homeland Security and Counterterrorism. Ultimately, Brennan was appointed CIA director. First, Obama's passport records were accessed and altered. Then days later, likely to provide cover, Brennan's private intel company assessed Clinton's and McCain's record, as the State Department had already flagged the Obama breach by that time. Brennan's company assessed and altered Obama's passport before the 2008 presidential election, while Brennan was also working on Obama's campaign team. After the election, Brennan took a job inside the White House. A month after the passport breach, the key witness in this case was murdered. Harris was shot in the head in his car in front of his church. Lieutenant Harris told federal investigators before he was murdered that he received passport information from a co-conspirator who works for the U.S. Department of State. What became of the co-conspirator? Why wasn't she brought to trial? There is no way to tell what might have been done to Obama's passport records by those who accessed them. Key information could have been altered or destroyed. On April 8, 2008, after the breach became public, Obama confessed to having taken a trip to Pakistan in 1981. The then candidate said, "I traveled to Pakistan when I was in college." Journalist Jake Tapper was surprised and said, "This last part, a college trip to Pakistan, was news to many of us who had been following the race closely, and it was odd that we hadn't heard about it before, given all the talk of Pakistan during this campaign." Did Obama confess to this trip, which he doesn't mention in either of his autobiographies because of the passport breach? Or did Brennan simply erase the trip from Obama's passport records through his role as CEO of Intel Contractor Analysis Corp., where Brennan worked between his CIA career and Obama's White House on Brennan's journey to CIA head? Only Brennan employee Lieutenant Quarles Harris knows, and the FBI. And dead men tell no tales, especially in D.C. Just ask Seth Rich. And the FBI cannot be trusted. Unsolved murder, case closed. Now that's interesting, isn't it? So this person who was a witness was murdered. Also, we have to think about Loretta Fuddy, right? Who was murdered. When the plane went down, she was the only one who was murdered, and I do have a video going through that if you are interested, but we obviously know that there's something, and we all know that anyway, but I'm just saying those people that deny it would have a hard time explaining these two things, would they not? But they seem to just, I don't know, make up their own reality. So let's go back and let's see. Let me see. Okay, let's I'm going to do a couple more and then I'm going to break because this is getting to be a long video. And there seems to be a lot of stuff. Rand Paul, the only person we know colluded with Russia was Hillary Clinton. Now, we all know that. I'm not going to go through the video, but Senator Rand Paul continued to call out the media's blatant double standard surrounding allegations of Russian collusion this week, saying the only person we actually know colluded with Russia was former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. Paul was speaking with Fox News when he blasted the left's full-fledged obsession with Vladimir Putin Tuesday, adding that Robert Mueller's year-long investigation has so far yielded no evidence the Trump campaign worked with the Kremlin. No, indeed, and that is correct. The only person that colluded with Russia was Hillary Clinton. So, let's go back, and I think I might cut it off there because I do have a lot of other stuff to cover, and I don't want to give you video fatigue. I've already talked your hind leg off today, so probably both hind legs, I don't know, and in the next video I might work on the two front legs. But I hope that you're having a good day. It's 4:44 p.m. Eastern Time, and I just will definitely be back with another, and hope that you will continue to have a wonderful day. Stay safe.